The Prime Minister speaking over there, addressing BJP workers. He's been speaking for the last 25 minutes or so. I'm just going to run through a couple of the key points. He spoke about the BJP returning to power for this government, the NDA returning to power for the third time. That's something that hasn't happened since 1962. He spoke a lot about the BJP and its triumph in Odisha, both at the assembly level, saying that for the first time there's going to be a BJP chief minister in Odisha. He spoke about the election success in Telangana, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, other states where the BJP has done well, focused on the Northeast as well. He's spoken about how they came to power the first time around when there was a great deal of corruption in the country. At one stage, it appeared that the Prime Minister was close to tears. That's when he was speaking about the role of women. He mentioned that the BJP has won alone more seats than the entire India alliance. And he repeated something that we've heard him say in the past, where he says that if you take 2 steps, he will take 4. He's ready to work 18 hours a day. And significantly, he spoke, and I think this was as sizable a part of his address, on the historic new decisions he said that the government would take with him as Prime Minister, women-led development being a key focus. He spoke about the role of women in entrepreneurship, in sports and space. He spoke about high-tech areas like semiconductors, defense production, India's defense, and the importance of it becoming Atmanirbhar, and a green era with green policies. He also spoke about space and the Chandrayaan mission. So, forward-looking in the sense of what he plans to do, continuity in one sense, but also a reflection of the political gains that the BJP has made. No direct mention, at least none that I picked up, on how they have lost out in certain areas this time
Yes. Around. So the Prime Minister's victory speech there, highlighting the significance of this victory. He goes on to talk about the fact that the country has voted for NDA for a 3rd straight term with majority, and called it the victory of the biggest democracy of the world. Surjit Bhalla is joining us, economist, psephologist. We also have Shazia Ilmi of the BJP, Jabi Mathur, who is the spokesperson of the Congress, also joining us. But Dr. Bhalla, coming to you, a lot of surprises in these results, quite unexpected for many, and including you, because you were expecting an upswing of 5%. That is not to be. If anything, the BJP is below its 2019 numbers.
Yeah, no, lots of surprises, and starting with the exit polls, which had forecast a much larger victory for the NDA, and 3 states as has been singled out by most people. So I think this is time for first to celebrate the success of democracy, rightly so. Also to celebrate the fact that this is 3rd time in a row that the government has been returned, which hasn't happened since 1962, and also to introspect. BJP has to, and I think they will, and they should, introspect as to what went wrong. Clearly, it was below expectation, and while congratulating ourselves or themselves on the victory, they should also be introspecting, which I'm sure they will.
Sure. We're also joined by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi at this stage. Thanks, Dr. Singhvi, very much for being with us. In as much as it has been a really revived opposition this time around, what the UPA, what the India Alliance has done in Uttar Pradesh, certainly what we've seen in Maharashtra as well, some other states, the fact of the matter, and Modi said this, is that here is a government which is going to return for a 3rd consecutive time. It's not happened since, I believe, 1962. Is that not the larger sort of story as well, that despite their electoral losses, it's very remarkable for anybody to come back to power?
Absolutely correct. And I think I have no hesitation in congratulating him and the BJP for possibly coming to power a 3rd time. But there are many takeaways here.
But carry on, sir.
Vishnu, there are many takeaways here which deserve reflection, and your time is short. We're all competing for television space with no less than the Prime Minister a short while ago. So I know your time is short. The first foremost takeaway is that the real winner the real cleverest of all is not you, me, BJP, Modi, Congress,
the Indian
but
voter.
the public. The public.
Yes.
The public सब जानती है, public सच समझती है, ये छोटी बात नहीं है, बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात है. Number 2, this is the time for cephalogists and predictors to be humble. Let me tell you very candidly, I have great regard for one particular person, Mr. Pradeep Gupta. I don't know him at all. He's normally very accurate. And he cried on television. I'm not saying it as I mean it as a mark of humility. Never before in the history of cephalogy have the predictors made such a kind of a resounding crescendo, which has crashed so badly. Number 3, I think one must not forget, and this is a false narrative being going on many channels. I'm very sorry, I say so with great respect. He's my Prime Minister as well. Also by the Prime Minister in a speech short while ago. But this is wrong. That our total, the BJP total of 239, 240 or whatever it is more than the combined total of the India alliance. That's not quite right. The Congress fought only 282 seats. The BJP fought 432 seats. So you can't compare the 100 of the Congress odd with the BJP's. That's a wrong comparison.
Dr. Singh,
secondly, there is a great reduction in the value from 272. If you look at the figure of 294, 295, 289, I don't know the exact figure, it's fluctuating.
292.
If you look carefully at the Johnny-come-latelys, the recent marriages, unstable marriages, with the two ends, one end of Bihar and one end of Andhra Pradesh, then you realize how fragile this is. And that links with the most important point.
Yes.
You cannot have it both ways. The entire election from day one till today is fought of, by and for one name, one person. Modi ka manifesto, Modi ki guarantee, Modi ki sarkar, Modi ko jitana hai, vote Modi ke liye.
Dr. Singh,
No, Dr. Singh, that is all done.
Somebody seeks a referendum on his own name, then...
No, but Dr. Singh, I'm only interrupting because that's all over, that's done. But I think what you have said earlier, where I really want an answer, sir, is there a real chance, are you seriously looking at building a coalition in the interim future which can challenge the NDA? Because you hinted at that. Others have as well. Or is that just talk, sir?
Let me answer that. First of all, neither anybody else nor I am anybody to say about anything today because the alliance is meeting tomorrow. We are not here to anticipate what they will decide. Number 2, I can say with the full authority at my command that anyone who subscribes to our view of a new India, anyone who subscribes to our view of a constitutional protection, non-dictatorial approach to governance, will always be welcome. It will be open. What will happen, whether it will happen, when will it happen, with whom it will happen, is not for me to say
politics
today.
Politics is the art of possibilities as well.
Closing the door.
Dr. Singh,
no, they're subject to that condition.
Okay. Dr. Singh, in recent, few days, there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of acrimony in the manner in which this entire electoral process was looked at. The entire sanctity of the elections was being questioned repeatedly. Whether and doubts were being raised on the conduct of the Election Commission. Will that be put to rest once and for all? This is the democracy and its very institutions which have delivered this mandate.
Well, the fact that there's a mandate doesn't mean that those valid arguments will be put to rest. Let me be very quick in your television. It is, of course, also a lesson that religious divisiveness, extreme abusive rhetoric, and the constant aggregation of, divisiveness of caste, communities and religious lines is not going to work beyond a point in India. I had the privilege of leading most of the delegations to the Election Commission. I would continue to fault it for not dealing with the absolutely unheard of, unprecedented and unacceptable speeches of numero uno and numero due.
Sure.
They did not deal with it. They did a fudge. They issued notices to the presidents of the parties. They made a false equivalence with Rahul Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge and the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. Completely false equivalence. And unless we call it out, you are not doing a service to democracy.
Okay, so when you compliment
I also must put
and
on record,
congratulate the Election Commission of doing a job well done.
I must also put on record, and you don't know this, I have congratulated today. The last delegation which met them was led by me today. And I said on 113 odd, 110, 11 odd complaints, you gave us favorable verdicts on 70. And I congratulate them for that. Publicly, I did so personally. But the question will remain that when push comes to shove, you are a constitutional institution which has to, play the role completely fearlessly. And in some of those cases, 3 or 4 or 5 of them,
right.
I don't think that they have come up to the mark.
Okay, Dr. Singhvi, thanks very much. You've kept us guessing right now, saying that the India Alliance is meeting tomorrow, and you haven't answered my question, despite saying that you have. But I will ask you that question and again. Let's see what actually happens in the days ahead. But we are joined by Shazia Ilmi as well. Shazia, I think what's going to be relatively new, I mean, for the BJP this time around, is rediscovering what it is to work within a coalition. It's something which it's not going to be. It's not going to be necessarily so easy. There's going to be consensus building, which is going to be a part of that. I think people in India want to know: does that potentially impact governance and delivery?
Vishnu, I must spell out the fact that if you see the track record of Bharatiya Janata Party and what has been our coalition dharma and the history of it, and how we have been with all our alliance partners, you would realize that we have been an extremely responsible party. If you see the oldest BJP alliance, that was the Shiv Sena, it was Shiv Sena that broke away, and we know what transpired during the last Maharashtra Vidhan Sabha elections. And we also know what happened with Akali Dal and Bharatiya Janata Party. It was Akali Dal that decided to split. We always kept together and were not at all demanding. Even the last time when we had a coalition relationship with Nitish Kumar, you know how generous Bharatiya Janata Party had been, that despite a higher number of seats, we made sure that it is Nitish ji who is at the helm of affairs, the CM. So everybody knows our track record, and BJP is actually very responsible when it comes to managing pressures and pulls, but it doesn't compromise on what it stands for. So Shazia, I think that is something everybody knows about BJP.
Shazia, that's not really stating the correct facts, you know, because in the last government which was formed, we do know that your alliance partners wanted a bigger share in the pie, the government pie, and that was not to be. I mean, to say that you have been accommodative may not be really presenting the right picture as far as alliance management is concerned. But yes, return of Nitish Kumar and ensuring...
No, Maria, that is not, no. I disagree with you. I think the art of negotiation continues. But you know how it works. I give you examples of how we have managed with our oldest alliance partners. Within the alliance, within this matter of cabinet berths or sharing, the negotiation goes on. So it doesn't mean that BJP has not been generous. It is or been generous or not been generous. Either way, you won't make that kind of a judgment on BJP whatsoever.
Okay, let's try and bring in the analysts now. Amitabh Tiwari and Nirja, let's try and look at Prime Minister's speech. A roadmap of sorts clearly highlighted. But Amitabh, what would you say the big takeaway? We were expecting celebrations. The celebrations did happen. The Prime Minister emphasized on the scale of the victory and also the history that is associated with it. But what do you think is going to be the big takeaway?
No, I think the big takeaway clearly is that a government after 1962 is coming back to power for a third term. An alliance is coming back to power. The key thing here is that it's a pre-poll alliance and not a post-poll alliance. Abhishek ji was talking about the fact that you can't compare the Congress party's tally to BJP's tally, because I was the one who made that statement that BJP's tally is almost 2.5 times of Congress. The strike rate of Congress is 30%, whereas the strike rate of BJP is 56%. So that's still a number to consider. BJP is at the pole of the politics, still continues to be at the pole of the politics. Now, there will be an alliance government. There will be pulls and pressures for sure. But BJP is a dominating party in this alliance. Now we have two alliance partners. And we have to also see that how strategically they were carved into the NDA just before the Lok Sabha elections. If these two partners were with India Bloc, the results could have been something different.
Yes.
So we have to also give it to the foresightedness of the BJP that it believed that it was weaker at that point of time and did a ghar wapsi of Nitish and Naidu, with whom they had shared an acrimonious relationship in the past.
Yes.
Now,
the separation was also very acrimonious.
Separation was acrimonious.
I just wanted to go across to Clyde Crasto, spokesperson of the NCP. We saw Sharad Pawar speaking earlier on in the day, saying that there was a process of reaching out to potential partners. Is that process, where is that process right now? And can you share anything other than the fact that, the India Alliance is meeting tomorrow? Is this just talk? Because if you look at it, Clyde, even with these reduced numbers, the NDA appears to be quite strong. They're well past the halfway mark is the NDA. So, is this just hypothetical or is the alliance getting excited, the India Alliance?
There's no question of being excited or anything. This is a political process. Everything is fair in politics at the moment. Tomorrow is another day. Like, Mr. Singhvi also told you that the India Alliance partners are meeting tomorrow. There's not much that I can divulge right now into those details. But the fact of the matter is, yes, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. But there's going to be a meeting tomorrow of the India Alliance partners.
And Mr. Pawar would have a role.
When the last ball is bowled.
Clyde, Mr. Pawar would have a role in terms of attempting to secure some sort of an alternate coalition, even at this stage. Is that what you're suggesting?
Definitely, Mr. Sharad Pawar is the tallest leader in this country, very astute politician. Whatever it takes, to give a good governance to the people of India, and give government, he'll work on it. We have to wait and watch tomorrow's other day, and there's going to be a meeting tomorrow, and then we'll go for it.
The Congress leadership wakes up in the morning tomorrow, what will be on their mind? Will it be about making efforts at certain kind of, alliance stitching, or will it be about quiet confidence at 100? It's a century for the Congress.
Congress leadership will wake up and sleep peacefully tonight and wake up fresh tomorrow morning, and then there's going to be the biggest message given by Congress leadership today is the respect they give for the alliance partners. So very clearly Rahul Gandhi ji and Mallikarjun Kharge ji very clearly said that whatever it is, there's going to be discussion within the alliance and within India Bloc, and then only there's going to be anything. But the biggest thing, now country heard a victory speech by Prime Minister. I wish to make it very clear that from any stretch of imagination or definition, did it sound like a victory speech? Is this the Prime Minister or Mr. Modi we have seen in so many years? His sound, his expression, his voice modulation, his actions, nothing sounded like a victory speech. It was a very compromised speech. Now the message is,
Maybe I beg to differ, because I'll tell you.
Anymore.
No, JB, I differ because I listened to that speech. In fact, I was sitting over here taking notes. How was that not an election speech when he spoke about returning to power for for 3 times, the first time since 1962. He was almost had tears in his eyes, thanking women. He spoke about their huge election success in Orissa, Telangana, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, HP, etc., etc., etc. It certainly sounded like an election victory speech to me.
There was no sense of excitement in Prime Minister's voice, which is normally not the PM
because
speech.
that is the point that has been made by her. And perhaps all other opposition parties will be talking about the same. As someone who has watched Prime Minister's speech for several years, what was today's speech
the Prime Minister's speech
like today?
Well, it is thanking, of course, you made a very important point of the humongous exercise that the conduct of elections in a country like India entails. It's all about. And that is something every election we all feel very proud of. And I must say here also, all our leaders, parties have lost, parties have come to power. Indira Gandhi, 1977, she could have rigged the election. She was in power, the emergency was there, she called for the election, she didn't, she lost. And there's been a lot of disquiet also about this government in the last days, whether EVMs will be fixed, what will happen. Even at the ground level one heard these voices, but it's not been done. And I think a smooth transition of power takes place every single time and without violence. And that is something to be proud about in our democracy.
No, it is. And this entire argument about fake EVMs, false EVMs, they don't work, they're rigged, there's somebody looking into what's happening, that's been proven to be
Well,
we are done and dusted with that. We've done and dusted. In fact, the opposition really needs to answer and put away that argument once and for all. They'll take these results, right? And you don't find them talking about EVMs today. But I'll tell you what we'll do.
But I want to answer what.
But go right ahead. I'm just going to walk across to the screen. But Nija, you go right ahead.
The Prime Minister's speech.
Yes.
I think he spoke in his usual way, thanking speech. It was like his usual rallies. Maybe I would have thought a little subdued, more subdued than he normally is. He looked very tired also. And as for government formation, what you were saying, if the Congress and the India Bloc make an effort to wean away Chandrababu Naidu, is that possible? Nitish Kumar, is that possible? Between them, they add up to 30. There may be Jitin Manjhi with 31. They'll have to get away Chirag Paswan, another 5, 36. They still add up to 268. And even if they get others, a few others, it's a how will they run a government like that? It's going to be very dicey. So I think they've got a mandate to sit in the opposition and build.
And this is a mandate of 292, which is the mandate of government for the BJP-led NDA.
So Maria, let me come back to what I wanted to actually show our viewers for a moment. It's going to be 10 p.m. soon, so I thought it's useful to actually give you an idea of what the All India picture over here is. The All India picture sees the NDA coming back to power. Prime Minister Modi will be back the third time in a row. It's the first time that we've seen a performance like this by any political formation or political party since 1962. He spoke about that in his election speech. But the real surprise, in a sense, this time around was the fact that there is an opposition in this country which is fairly robust, that Parliament this time around is going to have perhaps more strident protests, criticism, constructive things, because the number of 232 for the India alliance is quite important. If we take a look at states, again, one of the key talking points this time around would be the state of Uttar Pradesh. This is where the BJP absolutely dominated last time around, winning virtually everything. This time around, just look at the numbers. The India alliance ahead of the NDA. Who would have thought in Yogi Adityanath's state something like this would be possible? The NDA down 28, the India alliance at 37. And if you look at the blues, which mark the opposition, and largely the Samajwadi Party, who we haven't really marked over here, through and through, in area after area, whether it's Awadh over here, or where the India alliance is ahead, the Bundelkhand area over here, where again, narrowly, the India alliance, the Doab area, which lies to the west, the NDA, the east as well, the west as well. And the point I'm making is in every single area of India's largest state, we've got the India alliance, which has been ahead. In fact, other than this particular area, which is the northeast, where the NDA was ahead. Let's just move to another one of the really interesting states. If you thought that it was the Congress party which would potentially do well in the state of Karnataka, given how well they did in the recent assembly elections, no, think again. It is the NDA which has done very well over here. Quite clearly, the rhetoric of the assembly poll, the pointed campaign of the assembly poll hasn't translated into results in Karnataka. Across the state, we've seen the NDA dominant, down 7 from last time. The Congress did better rather, but again the NDA coming to be very, very strong. And I'm just going to look at two other key states over here. If we take a look at the west of the country, Maharashtra has also been a huge talking point, because the India alliance, riding perhaps on the bank of uncertainty on the true identity of the Shiv Sena, the true identity of the NCP, up 20 from last time around to 29 to 18, all across they've been dominant. On one more state which we can actually look at, east of the country, this is important because the BJP has spent so much time and effort at making a mark in West Bengal, and we've seen this consistently for a party which has done fairly poorly in Bengal several elections back, to hitting their stride with remarkable assembly results, really taking on the Trinamool Congress. It was 22-18 in favor of the Trinamool last time around, but a substantial drop for the BJP this time. As you can see, the Trinamool at 29, the BJP at 12 down 6. So Mamata Banerjee remains very, very strong. But if there is one area in Bengal where the BJP continues to do well, it is the north region, where they're down 1 but still considerably ahead of both the Congress and the Trinamool Congress. It's actually in the south of Bengal, where the Trinamool, and this is Mamata Banerjee's electoral heartland, where she's done extremely well. And Maria, I'll invite you to ask me to click on any of these icons. I'm clearly having a field day over here. We've got key candidates over here.
I think you should start with Akhilesh Yadav.
All right, let's look at Akhilesh Yadav over here.
He's the man of the moment in Uttar Pradesh.
These leads will be translating into results, possibly a result already. In fact, the Samajwadi Party has done remarkably well across the state, and he's been at the center of it all, dominating, in a sense, the India Alliance and their role over there. Smriti Irani, I tracked her in Amethi a couple of days back. She did appear to be confident. She felt she was certain about the pulse on the ground, but she's lost that election. A huge defeat for the BJP, and perhaps unexpected in that constituency where the Congress has seen, their presence over there, and it's been a pocket borough being restored in a sense. Omar Abdullah has lost in Baramulla and Jammu and Kashmir. And there was a sense that he would in fact offer the governance. He's tweeted about it, conceding election earlier on. His opponent, somebody in jail presently, but he said that he misses the opportunity or the chance of actually providing governance, but he has congratulated his opponent, somebody who won the election as well. Another big player, of course, Chirag Paswan, winning in Hajipur in Bihar, very, very important as far as the NDA is concerned at this stage. So that's a look at just a couple of faces over there. This is the overall story. As you can see, plenty to talk about in the days ahead. The NDA will be meeting, the India Alliance will be meeting as well. Maria?
So important meetings lined up for tomorrow, and let me bring in Surjit Bhalla. Dr. Bhalla, there are lots to talk in terms of the numbers and how it has really panned out. Where do you think did the pollsters and those who were talking about the swing and the gains got it wrong?
Well, across the board, actually, if you take out some of the few places where they got it right. So look, first, as far as the sophologists are concerned, this is a rare event where the entire class fails. This has not happened too many times before. The one time I do remember it happened when I was one of the very few who got it right, which was Bihar in 2015. So this is a very rare event. And therefore, I think the pollsters, the sophologists have to introspect. All of us, including the Congress has to introspect, India Alliance has to introspect, as well as the BJP, as to what happened in this election. I mean, I think what Neeta said correctly, the one victor, solid victor, and all the time it comes out, is the Indian voter. And the important lesson that all of us have to take, especially the opposition in this case, which constantly was harping about how this election was not fair, how the electoral machines, etc. So I hope that has been banished from our thought forever. This democracy is working very well. Last point I want to make on this is that Manu Singhvi said that how basically the statistical point is very correct, that the BJP on its own has got more seats than the entire India opposition put together. And he went into how the Congress had fought fewer seats than the BJP. Well, the comparison is with the entire 543 seats. Both of them were in alliance, and therefore this is a resounding defeat, if you will, for the Congress in terms of the alliance. And their strike rate, as has been mentioned, is much, much lower than the BJP. So, let's all be fair. The BJP and the, excuse me, the alliance, NDA alliance, did very well, but certainly not up to their own expectations or the expectations of the pollsters, and did not get they got a majority on their own in the sense of the entire alliance, but the BJP
in terms
was
of,
banking
since
on a majority on its own.
Talk about economics as well as an economist, if you could wear that hat for us for a few minutes and give us a sense of what will it do to the policy roadmap which has been prepared by Prime Minister Modi.
I don't think it will do, look, on economic policies, there have been lots of approval, lots of correct things have been done, and there have been some mistakes made. I don't, for one, see any changes in economic policy in a fundamental sense. There will be tweaking, there should be tweaking, there should be reforms. Many of us have talked about the need for income tax reform and some of the unfinished agenda of reforms, and that's as it should be. And I think what is really coming out for me, at least, from this, is that the chances of reforms have increased, not decreased, by the fact that now there are checks and balances on the NDA, on the BJP, as well as the NDA. So this is now, a more cooperative, and there will be if you will, the slight, not even slight, but mistakes that were made in economic policy are unlikely to continue, because the coalition will go ahead and work together for a common agenda and an improved agenda. So I am very satisfied with the prospect that the economic policies will continue. It's been a remarkable achievement on economic side, what has happened in the last 10 years in India. Absolutely remarkable. And whether you want to compare with our own history or compare with other countries, this has been the most striking feature of this administration. So therefore, the legitimate question is, what went wrong? And I think that's where all of us, you and analysts and experts, will now look into, because clearly something didn't go according to plan.
Right.
And
no,
that's
Dr.
what
Bhalla, take that point completely. I'm just, thank you very much, as always, for being with us. I'd just like to go across to Salman Khurshid, who joins us at this stage. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us. Mr. Khurshid, there's a bottom line here. The BJP appears to be returning to power despite the surge of the India alliance. It is still a landmark win, with the Prime Minister likely returning for the third time, the first PM to return for a third time since Nehru. In as much as this is an election where the opposition has revived, is that perhaps the bigger story, that they are coming back?
Well, it really depends. I mean, if you want to do superficial politics, then that's the big story. But if you look a little bit deeper, you have to take into account the kind of result they've got. I mean, they had everything at their command, everything, including a perception about the Prime Minister himself, everything at their command. And now you turn around and you look at results and you find what? You find BJP leaders winning the election, Mr. Chauhan winning an election by over 5-6 lakh votes or 7 lakh votes, and Mr. Modi going to his hometown, Varanasi, and winning against an ordinary Congress leader by 1,50,000 votes. Now this is the greatest story, the biggest story, but it depends on what you're looking for. I think the rejection of many things that the BJP has stood for is writ large as far as this result is concerned. Maybe the mathematics is not that effective as far as we are concerned.
Okay, Mr. Khurshid, the question certainly is that Indian politics is back in the era of coalitions. What do you think will be the implications, because you were part of the UPA, on overall governance, policy making, and how will that be impacted?
Well, I think either way. I mean, either ways. Either we get a BJP coalition government, or perhaps, and there's a very big perhaps, we get a coalition India government, or that the India coalition remains in opposition to the BJP coalition. One thing is very clear, that this is not going to be a dictatorial functioning of politics in this country. It'll have to be something more sensitive, more accommodative, more taking into account different kinds of interests, and the sort of thing that one saw with the CBI and the ED, etc. That's not something that we'll see a repeat of in a hurry.
So one final question: are you still optimistic of an opposition coalition coming together? Something that might even be worked out potentially in the next day or two, or is that, given the numbers, fairly unrealistic?
Well, anything can happen in the next day or two, but yes, I agree with you that it's a long shot. It's not, and it's obviously not necessarily on the table as yet. Mr. Gandhi has made it very clear that they will go into a conversation with all the partners tomorrow, and something may come out of it. But in any case, I think that the kind of stability that we had got accustomed to in the last 10 years, good or bad stability, but the stability we had got accustomed to in the last 10 years is unlikely to hold true now for the next 2-3 years. Whoever forms the government, and in whichever manner the government is formed, but I don't think that we can hope for this kind of stability. A little bit of what happens at the state level all the time in the recent years will begin to influence politics here at the center, which may not necessarily be a good thing, frankly.
All right, Mr. Khurshid, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations for what appears to be a surprise number for your party, the Congress. Let me go back to Amitabh Tiwari and Neerja Chaudhary. Ma'am, as a Prime Minister, Mr. Modi has created history. He is looking at another 5 years. What do you think the contours of this government will be? Because the update that we have got from Rashtrapati Bhavan is also that the preparations for the next swearing in will begin from tomorrow onwards, and that's why the premises will be shut till 9th.
Yeah, and then the Prime Minister has to go for the G7. So the swearing in has to take place before that. I think that this government, Narendra Modi has won every election he's fought.
Yes.
But the governments he's headed have all been majority governments. So this is the first time he's going to be heading a coalition government, which will throw up challenges of a very different kind. Now, politicians are very flexible, very adept at, seeing the writing on the wall and dealing with those challenges. Now, I think he will have to take along his allies. That will be number one. He will have to take along people within his own parties who may have been marginalized in the last years, and he will also have to be mindful of the concerns of the opposition and take them on board, much more than in the last 10 years.
So it will be more accommodative.
Can I just pick up on a small point that you mentioned, just for the benefit of our viewers? Foreign policy has always been important for this Prime Minister. And so G7, he's expected to be in Italy for that on the 14th of this month. So just 8 days later, just less than 8 days later, by the time he actually departs, and so that's going to be a major foreign policy agenda right off the bat. It's not as if he's going to visit one of the neighboring countries this time around first, which is something that usually takes place. Maria?
Yes. So let's take that thought forward in terms of policy. With the kind of numbers that the BJP enjoyed in the first term and the second term, and still they had to go for the rollback of the farm laws, Amitabh. So while they'll go ahead with the ideological push of the agenda of Uniform Civil Code, or do you think they'll face challenges on that front?
I think they could face challenges on the ideological front, but on the foreign policy and the economic policy, I don't see much challenges, because continuity is the mantra in both these policies. And as Neerja ma'am has said, if you see, Narendra Modi is a very flexible and a practical politician. The camaraderie which he shares with global leaders on the global stage, I think now he has to work around local allies and the leaders of the alliances which are now part of the NDA to form or create that sort of a camaraderie with the alliance partners to run this government successfully for the next 5 years. History is in the making, and as you mentioned, the Rashtrapati Bhavan is making all the arrangements, and Narendra Modi is going to be reinstalled as the Prime Minister for a third record term.
I think that's the right way to sum it up and sum up the day.
What happens to one nation, one election? There are several things which are question marks.
But you have written a book on the Prime Ministers. What chapter will Prime Minister Modi be in now after this, it's history. He's returning with a mandate and becoming Prime Minister with a full majority. This is a full majority government.
Yes, and for a third term. That is after Nehru, as he himself pointed out. The last
you
time
know what I'd like to know, and I'm sure Maria already has the answer to this, who's going to be what minister?
I seriously do not know. And in this government, you're best placed if you don't know, because the contours of this government will be very different from what was being imagined, given the kind of mandate which was predicted or being forecasted by the pollsters.
That's true.
And who will be party president?
Who will be party president, because Mr. Nadda's tenure comes to an end in the month of June.
Potentially what goes to cabinet, is that a possibility that they may be looking at as well? For
We
Mr.
really
Nadda?
do not know.
We don't know.
Shivraj has won with a record mandate. Shivraj Chauhan has won with a record mandate.
Yeah,
8.2 lakh votes.
Is that the highest? Is that the highest that you've seen so far?
Potentially.
In this election, of course, it's the highest. Yeah.
All right.
It could be even the highest across elections, I'm not sure.
No, last time I think Mr. Amit Shah won with a mandate of 8 lakh plus.
5, I think it was, wasn't it? Anyway.
Yes.
In fact, the BJP has done stunningly well in Madhya Pradesh this time around.
Yes, and the seat of Chhindwara has also fallen for the Congress.
It's the new fort of the BJP.
Yes.
Well, we're going to take a short break at this stage. It's been a very long and busy day for all of us over here, but there is so much more that's going to be happening on NDTV and on ndtv.com. You can get all the updates, various leads in terms of political developments, no longer leads in terms of the elections. We know what exactly has taken place. But what's coming up? When does the process of government formation start? What about the India alliance, that all-important meeting that's to take place? Are they serious about a coalition at this stage? Is that something that might happen in the future? How do coalitions work for the NDA, for the BJP, I should mention? How will Parliament change in its operations? There's so much to discuss. We'll have all of that and a lot more right here on NDTV. Good night.